An ex-soldier finds himself trapped between a pack of wolves and a sheer cliff face, with nothing but a machete and his wits to protect him. It sounds like a B-movie, but this encounter reportedly took place near an alpine village in southern France in February of this year, which would make it the first recorded instance of aggression by wolves towards a human since the animals naturally repopulated the country in 1993. So the inevitable question arises, is restoring wolves just creating a buffet with humans as the main course? It's time for those special 3 words that you've been waiting for. Case study video. Oh, you thought I was going to say these 3 words. After centuries of methodical persecution, wolves became extinct in France somewhere in the 1930s and remained absent from its mountains, forests and plains for about 60 years until they naturally recolonized from population sources in Italy. Spreading north and west under the protection of new agreements such as the Berne Convention and Habitat Directive to reach an estimated population of just over 500 individuals as of 2020. According to the French news source Connection, local councillor Joseph Uto was inspecting the water level in a canal at a mountain pass about 3 kilometres from the village of Castellet-les-Soux. There's going to be a lot of butchering of French names in this video, which would probably put him somewhere around here. This is at the edge of Alpes-Maritimes, a population source for wolves and one of the first territories resettled by them in the early 1990s. Around mid-morning he began traversing a narrow trail, bordered on one side by a cliff and the other falling away to a steep slope covered with impenetrable vegetation. If there's any place you don't want to encounter a wild predator, this is a great choice. And just like that, he became aware of a pair of wolves watching him from a ridge at a distance of around 200 metres. Mr. Uto is reported to be an ex-soldier, so in theory his account of what happened next should be reliable and accurate. He shouted at the animals in an attempt to scare them off, which is a genuinely solid tactic, except that on this occasion it didn't work. The wolves only moved closer instead of fleeing from the noise. By the time they had advanced to around 50 metres, he could count 5 individuals. He scaled up his response by throwing stones, which the wolves apparently avoided. Perhaps he wasn't a very good shot, or the stones weren't very heavy. Either way, it was an equally ineffective deterrent. As he backed up against the cliff to avoid being surrounded, Joseph retrieved the machete he used for clearing vegetation from the trail. He claims he heard the pack snarling and growling as they advanced, led by a large female. At a distance of 7 metres, she appeared to move into attack, and Mr. Uto struck her on the hindquarters with the machete. Although he couldn't be sure whether he had hit her with the handle or blade, it was finally enough to cause the entire pack to flee, and Joseph found himself alone on the trail once more. Like Mr. Uto, we're left struggling to piece together what happened. Straight up, I'm going to emphasise that there was clearly not a hunt. Wolves use growling and snarling to communicate to other wolves or to an animal that they feel threatened by. There are no records of wolves vocalising at their intended prey, and in the words of Wolf Park, Indiana, it would be like a human getting angry at an ice cream cone. It would be plausible that the pack were protecting a kill site. But that doesn't explain the wolves he witnessed observing him from a ridge prior to the encounter. Wolves of course protect their food to an extent, but would be unlikely to all out leave the site to investigate his presence. An explanation which almost fits the evidence is known as prey testing. There are unverified reports of naive wolves growling at humans as they try to decide whether they are a prey animal or competition, sometimes preceding an attack. It's possible that Mr. Yuto encountered a newly formed pack which had thus far never had human contact and were unsure how to respond to him, though this explanation is quite weak. The surrounding area is full of hiking trails, and it's unlikely a pack could form without fear of, or at least a recognition of, humans. And that might be exactly what we're seeing in this encounter. Awareness of humans forms the basis of the explanation put forward by the OFB, the French Government Biodiversity Agency. Here's what they had to say. Just one wolf showed intimidatory behaviour without looking to bite or throw itself at the man. In the absence of another path, it is very likely the canine wanted to force its way through. Without an escape route, wolves, like any wild mammal, can be dangerous. Sometimes the explanation really is that obvious. Mr. Yuto had unwittingly blocked the pack's progress through the gorge and effectively instigated a standoff. There are in fact some clues in his description of the conflict. Joseph states that the lead female appeared to move into attack, tactfully admitting that he only interpreted her intent when he struck her. Not that I blame him, I wouldn't want to be potentially chomped on either. It didn't escape my notice that he couldn't recall which end of the machete struck the wolf, despite the rest of the encounter being highly detailed. Acute stress has a tendency to improve memory formation during a traumatic event, rather than impair it. Personally, I suspect it was more likely a tactful omission. He may well have preemptively struck the animal to avoid being attacked, and didn't want to be seen as the aggressor by those investigating. That's fair enough, nobody should blame this guy for his self-preservation instinct. In fact, Mr. Yuto's own sentiments show remarkable clarity, as do those expressed by others. When Connection interviewed the local mayor, they responded with this practically textbook answer. He is fairly young and able to defend himself, but he says he is worried what might have happened if older members of the association faced the same situation. We have had wolves in the area for a while now. They are a menace for sheep farmers and have attacked some dogs, but people know it is exceptional for them to attack humans. Mr. Yuto himself says he does not want them hunted down. It's evident that the inhabitants of this southeast county have an understanding of what it means to live alongside wolves. Predation on livestock remains unresolved. In this instance, the residents seem to have accepted that, given the increasing population densities and spatial overlap of our respective species, encounters such as this are inevitable, even if extremely unlikely. Yet nobody is ignoring the risk. Those of us who are more vulnerable would not have fared so well. We have a responsibility to take reasonable precautions to ensure our own safety when out in the wild. Nature may be available for us to enjoy, but it does not exist innocuously for our own pleasure. Information on hiking safely in wolf country can be found in the description. Don't let this put you off though. You're more likely to upset a bear after all, and even more likely to upset a cumulonimbus cloud. We can only hope that as the awareness of the importance of top-level predators for a healthy ecosystem grows, we will collectively manifest a respect for not only the benefits of a healthy landscape, but for a human tolerance it requires to function. 3 days ago from the time of recording, a French resident in Bois-d'Amont, around 400 kilometers north of Castellet-les-Sous, recorded several young wolves protesting what appears to be a red deer in his backyard. At first glance, this footage might be alarming, so I wanted to include it to emphasize the points made in this video. As stated in the article which I've linked below, these are definitely young and inexperienced wolves who do not pose a real threat to humans or even this deer, but their behaviour suggests that they have no real negative experiences around humans and are so less cautious. While this incident is unusual, I don't personally think it shows wolves in France are becoming bolder or more dangerous in their behaviour, but it does reaffirm my point that if we are going to allow room for wolves and other large carnivores in our wildernesses and rural areas, while the human population continues to grow, it's vital that the public are aware of how to behave around and respond to wild predators for the continued safety of both. You've watched right to the end. If you're interested in helping us coexist with wolves, then why not visit my online store and social media, where you can directly support conservation work with any purchase, or even find out about getting involved in fieldwork yourself. Take care out there, and don't forget, understand, coexist, evolve.
Steals into the night.